Welcome to Reading the Bible with Pastor. Today we're on Exodus chapter 12, starting at verse 29. We had read previously about God telling Moses about the 10th plague, which is going to kill the firstborn of Egypt. Now, we'll finally get to that plague, but remember, this is the 10th and final plague. So it's given a lot of background, and we get to hear a little bit more about what goes on and during this, because it is the greatest plague, the killing of the firstborn. And it will represent God taking his own firstborn, Jesus, and using his death as a sacrifice for the many for the forgiveness of sins. At midnight, the Lord struck down all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh who sat on his throne, to the firstborn of the captive who was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of the livestock. And Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all his servants and all the Egyptians. And there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where someone was not dead. Then he summoned Moses and Aaron by night, and said, Up, go out from my people, both you and the people of Israel, and go, serve the Lord as you have said. Take your flocks and your herds as you have said, and be gone. Bless me also. So the Egyptians felt the wrath of God here in this plague. But the Israelites, who, during the Passover, they painted their doorposts with the blood of a lamb and their lintels, God saw that as their faith in him and passed over them, and their firstborn was not struck down. The Egyptians were urgent with the people to send them out of the land in haste, for they said, We shall all be dead. So the people took their dough before it was leavened, their kneading bowls being bound up in their cloaks on their shoulders. The Lord had told them during this time not to make bread with leaven, because they were to be ready to leave quickly. The people of Israel also done as Moses told them, for they had asked the Egyptians for silver and gold, jewelry, and for clothing. And the Lord had given the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they let them have what they asked. Thus they plundered the Egyptians. And the people of Israel journeyed from Ramses to Succoth, about 600,000 men on foot, besides women and children. So that's just the number of men. Scholars put this about 2 million people exited from Egypt. A mixed multitude also went up from them, and very much livestock, both flocks and herds. That mixed multitude would be foreigners who came along who were God-fearers, not necessarily being the people of Abraham, but people who feared God and trusted and had faith in him. And they baked unleavened cakes of the dough that they had brought out of Egypt, for it was not leavened, because they were thrust out of Egypt and could not wait, nor had they prepared any provisions for themselves. The time of the people of Israel lived in Egypt was 430 years. At the end of 430 years, on that very day, all the hosts of the Lord went out from the land of Egypt. It was a night of watching by the Lord, to bring them out of the land of Egypt. So this same night is a night of watching kept up to the Lord by all the people of Israel throughout their generations. And the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, This is the statute of the Passover. No foreigner shall eat of it, but every slave that is bought for money may eat of it after you have circumcised them. This shows that the people, the Lord, those that are faithful, not necessarily the ones that are born of Abraham, but they can be brought in through faith, and we see that in the promise of circumcision. No foreigner or a hired worker may eat of it. It shall be eaten in one house. You shall not take any of the flesh outside the house, and you shall not break any of its bones. Not breaking any of the bones of this unblemished lamb that they were to eat reminds us of Christ, the perfect sacrificial lamb for us on the cross, whose legs were not broken, like the thieves beside him, whose legs were broken there on the cross. All of the congregation of Israel shall eat of it. If a stranger shall sojourn with you, and would keep the Passover to the Lord, let all his males be circumcised. Then he may come near and keep it. He shall be as a native of the land. But no uncircumcised person shall eat of it. Again, reminding us that in faith they may eat of this Passover meal. There shall be one law for the native and for the stranger who sojourns among you. All the people of Israel did as the Lord commanded Moses and Aaron. And on that very day the Lord brought the people of Israel out of the land of Egypt by their hosts. We finish up the plagues of Egypt. It is at the 10th plague, the death of Pharaoh's firstborn, that he releases the Israelites out of Egypt. This points us back to Christ, who is the sacrificial lamb who allows God to pass over our sins. And this event here reminds us of that. As always, please subscribe to the channel and share this with others. We'll pick up next time with Exodus chapter 13.